Listen, do you want to know how you can get on our private, exclusive forum?
Tell me, Sal.
For free?
Tell me.
It's not top secret, but it is private.
It's private, and
we don't show privates on there, but it's private.
No. Ooh, yeah, we pull those down.
Our private forum has trainers, physique competitors, bodybuilders, bikini competitors,
gorgeous
doctors.
People. Lots of gorgeous people.
We have, me, Adam, and Justin are on there. It's a community where you can ask questions about your exercise technique, form, nutrition. You can vent about some of your struggles and frustrations. You can post your before and afters. It's an incredible community. It is tons of great information. You can get free access to it by going to mindpumpmedia.com and enrolling in one of our two most popular exercise bundles. We have the RGB bundle, which includes MAPS Anabolic, MAPS Performance, and MAPS Aesthetic, 9 months of exercise programming. Or you can go to the next level and get the MAPS Super Bundle, which also includes MAPS Prime, which teaches you how to prime your workouts properly. There's a self-assessment tool in there, revolutionary.
Very valuable.
And MAPS Anywhere, which is our no equipment required workout program. So if you travel, you want to work out at home, or what a lot of our users have been doing is they use MAPS Anywhere to bridge between programs like MAPS Anabolic and MAPS Performance, or between performance and aesthetic. Or deload. Enroll in one of those bundles. You get access to the forum for free, and it's for free forever. That's it, for life. By the way, the price of that will be going up next month, and in a very short period of time, it will no longer be a pay one time, get access forever. It'll be a pay annual type of thing. So this is a great deal. You want to get in on it now. Go to mindpumpmedia.com.
If you want to pump your body and expand your mind, there's only one place to go. Mind Pump. Mind Pump with your hosts, Sal DiStefano, Adam Schaefer, and Justin Andrews.
Doug, are we officially on yet?
We're officially on.
Okay, because I want to do a formal apology.
Why?
Apology?
Yeah, I want to.
Do you finally realize? This might be it, Justin?
This is the moment.
This is the moment he realizes what a dickhead he is. All right, go ahead. We've been waiting.
Well,
we've been waiting for this apology.
You're gonna ruin the apology, dude. It is actually. So
what?
I want to formally apologize to my teammates that I'm so blessed and lucky to be with and be a part of. And I know that this last couple of weeks, man, I've been sick. I'm still getting better right now. I haven't been on my workouts as consistently as I normally am, so that always affects my mood. So I've been kind of a pill to be around lately.
Oh, come on.
And I 100% know that and own that, and want to apologize and just tell you that I'm fully aware of it. And a lot of times I let a lot of the stuff going on with our business and stuff stress me out and apply that pressure a lot. But I could not be any luckier to be in the position. And I was what made me think about this, I was sharing this with Katrina last night, is we just recently interviewed Tom Bilyeu, and man, ended up being one of my favorite podcasts that we've done yet. And I'm listening to him talk, and he's sharing a lot of stories and things that are you could tell from a lot of people that we've interviewed or we knew too. And I was just thinking of all this collective knowledge that he has from all these great minds that he's been around and that he's talked to and interviewed, and listening to him share that. I thought, man, this is so cool. And I'm so blessed to be in a situation like this where not only am I surrounded around intelligent men, but then we have this opportunity to always be interviewing these brilliant minds and just absorbing this information at such a rapid rate. Like when we meet these guys, these are people that some people may go their whole life and never meet. And, or maybe you meet someone at that level once every 5 to 10 years, you know what I'm saying? And we're packing them in a week,
we're meeting the masters now.
Yeah. I mean, the last 4 people we were hanging out in the last 14 days are just on another level of brilliance and intelligence, and all levels too.
It's surreal, isn't it?
Yeah. And it's
a cool job. I'm not gonna lie.
And it really made me step out a little bit and go take a deep breath and be just so mindful and happy and present. And, and I know I have a hard time doing that. Of course, it doesn't help when I'm sick and all this stress and other stuff's going on. I'm not immune to those things. And, I can't be happier to be doing what we're doing. And it's really exciting. We worked really hard to start to make this all happen, and to see it unfolding now, and the impact that we're making in the industry, and the people that we're being able to share with our audience, is this is what we really did this for, So I thank you guys for being patient, and I love you to death. And I just wanted to formally apologize to you guys for what a hard ass I've been probably to deal with for the last month or so.
I haven't even noticed.
It's in your head. Bro.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
I appreciate that, but it really, like, you haven't even come across like that.
Yeah, we have, you
A
know.
little grumpy, but,
yeah.
you know.
We have the kind of relationship where we could be like that towards each other, and it's all good. It doesn't.
I know it's only a matter of time. Yeah,
it doesn't
we all
go beyond
kinda go
that.
through those spells.
No,
yeah.
it doesn't go beyond that. I mean, you know, me and Adam will argue all the time, and at literally that same day, we'll text each other and be like, "That was pretty awesome."
I love you, man. What are we doing?
Yeah,
You know?
fuck you. I love you, man.
It's
I mean,
ridiculous.
It's all right, dude. That's what it's all about. If you don't have that kind of passion to have that back and forth, or have that kind of passion to feel something for what you're doing, if you don't have that, you might not be doing the right thing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I agree.
And you know what, though? You do make a good point. There will be a day when we're going to reminisce on these days, when we're going to look back and be like, man, those were the good old days, you know?
Absolutely.
And it's hard. It's hard to do that when you're in it, because you just want to think, you know, keep thinking forward.
And that's what I mean by that. I think it's important, and I appreciate you guys, you know, let me off the hook a little bit, but I also think it's important that, and I just think this in all relationships and in life, and all people should, you know, take heed to this, is that when you are that way, it's important that you say that and express that. You know, how many times, you know, when you were probably younger, I mean, you guys are much wiser men now, but did you know, act a certain way that is not the way you want to portray who you are and your character, and then you thought about it afterwards, and then you never said anything.
Yeah, you never acknowledged it.
Yes, you never acknowledged, and you allowed those people or that person to receive that part of you, and a lot of that is it's the humbling part. It's not easy to say, hey, I'm wrong, or I wasn't right in this situation, or I was a dick, or I should have been this way. We just like to brush it under the rug and just continue going on, when I think there's something to be said about doing that and the type of person and character that you are, for those that are willing to admit that I'm wrong, I made a mistake, I could have been better here, I wasn't good, I wasn't a good man, I wasn't a good person, I wasn't a good boyfriend. Like, you know, how many people have gone back and told a person or ran into a person that you had a relationship with 10 years ago, and when you saw them, had the balls to say that, you know, what you were at that age, and how you could have been a better person, and how good of a person they were. You know, I think those are important things to do. So,
dude, I'll never forget. You just this was probably, God, maybe 5 years ago. So I'm still in my 30s. I went to the grocery store by my parents' house, and I see there was a guy that I went to school with who was he was kind of like the leader of like one of the main gangs in my junior high, and I had a lot of trouble with these people. I got jumped by them, and I got in a fight with one of them, and it was just a fucking stressful. I've told you guys the story. Stressful situation where the main leader guy, I just, you know, I ran into him, and now this is years and years and years later, and he walks all the way over to me. Now what's going through my mind is I'm going to punch him in his face, finally. Like, I'm going to hit him, because he was a dickhead back then, and I've been envisioning this moment this entire time. Like, I'm going to run to him as an adult and surprise him with a punch in the face. And can you imagine that?
Well, and
like, imagine the payback. You know, you're 30-something years old, you're a father now.
Yeah.
So you probably don't even remember me, and I just hit you, and you're just like, that's what I wanted. I wanted him to be like, wow, who is that guy? He just randomly hit me, and like,
and
now
you walked away.
And you get to live with that, you know, thinking of that now for the rest of your life.
Right.
But anyway, he walked up to me. I didn't hit him, because I wasn't going to really do that. And he apologized to me.
Yeah.
He actually apologized to me. He's like, hey, man, it's
crazy.
He's like, I was a fucking dick in junior high. And I was like, yeah, you were. And he's like, I just wanted to apologize about that. I'm like, well, you know, it's all good. You know, what's done is done. He's like, well, now I'm a pastor now. I guess he became a pastor, and it was a big deal.
Wow.
And he looks like a total dad now. This guy was like a hardcore thug back then.
Well, we're different people, you know, like when you look back at who you were when you were in your 20s, who you were when you were 18 or below. It's just, I was a completely different person, and to hold me to that person, I mean, that's an injustice. So to do that to anybody else too it's unfortunate that you would carry that same thought about somebody, you know, that long. But it's like, that's the most impressionable time where you're just like, oh my God, like you remember it so vividly, you know, the horrendous shit. Like, cause I've run into people the same kind of experience. Yeah.
Where you apologize to them?
I've apologized to someone before. Yeah,
No
absolutely. Way. Yeah. Especially like, I don't know if I told it on the podcast. I think I might have told about the acorn throwing incident that.
No.
No, now you got to share, bro.
God damn it. It's just like turning into a confessional today. Oh, man. Me and my best friend was a girl. So I grew up with this girl, and, we were, it was funny because we were, she was kind of a tomboy, and so she was just open to do whatever I wanted to do. And I had bully tendencies, and so one day, it was real competitive, kind of going towards the bus stop, and so there's this passing.
What do you mean, like race to the bus stop?
Yeah, we'd all race. We wanted to be first. For some reason, I don't know how it even started, but it just became a thing where everybody would look at each other and then be like, "Oh, no, I'm getting it," and then we'd all kind of race. And there was this kind of crossing, kind of intersection where it was like, if you saw somebody, you had to really sprint to get in front of them right before the end. And so I thought it'd be funny to, and this is where all these acorn trees are. I thought it'd be funny to just grab a bunch of acorns and just pelt whoever was in my way so I'd get there first, And so I convinced one of my best friends,
How
this
old
girl.
are you here?
God, I don't know. Maybe 6 or 7.
Okay.
7.
Oh, so you're a little guy.
I was just little, yeah. And so I totally just picked up this handful and pelted this poor girl in the face.
Oh my God.
And she cried, and then I bolted, and I'm like, yeah, and I never apologized to her, and I saw her crying and everything, and I never apologized. Anyways, it's just been this guilt, and it's such a small thing, your kids and all that stuff, but I ran into her later on in life, and Corey, so I apologize, Corey, again here publicly. But I was just I'm so embarrassed, that's so outside my character, but at the same time, I was getting bullied, and I was also bullying kids. It was part of the growing up thing for me. I was getting punked on, I was getting shit thrown at me. And so that was I was kind of retaliating, somehow. And I wasn't even thinking about it.
Kids could be so mean, man.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, though. I'm sure I'm going to piss some people off, but I have a son and a daughter, and they bully differently. Boys and girls are very different with how they bully.
Oh, for sure.
And
girls can be mean. Dude.
I was going to say, dude.
Girls are they do little brain ninja shit.
Oh,
dude.
I don't know if I want to be. I think I'd rather be bullied as a boy.
Oh, I would, because boys do stupid names.
Like what Justin
names
did.
that don't even make
throw
sense.
something at
You throw it.
you.
Yeah, you do an insult that doesn't even make
burn
sense.
your hair or something.
A girl says some shit to you that you she's just huh. Your nose is ugly.
Yeah, and it really is.
And then you're like, yeah, right, and you're already insecure about your. And then you go in your room and you look at your nose and you're just she could ruin you for the next 10 years. A guy is gonna say some stupid shit,
Well, more than that, even what they do is they gang what girls do. Little girls, I see this with my daughter. My daughter's in first grade. They'll band together and ostracize another little girl. So it's if I want to fuck with you, then what I do is I go make my team. I go make my my alliance, and I go talk to all these little girls and say, I'm not going to play with so and so. You shouldn't play with her too. Okay, let's not all play with her. And they get this alliance.
Have you seen that happen with your daughter's friends and stuff?
Bro, that's what they do.
Oh wow,
This is what they do.
Have you had to put her together because that's happened to her, or that she was a part of it and she did it to somebody?
How do you deal with that? If it's my son and a boy, so and so punched me in the face, I'm we'll punch him back. What do I say to my daughter? This is what you do. You go in there and you fucking start hitting them all. You can't do that because that'll backfire. Yeah. So you got to get smart. Okay, well, go up to this girl and say that. And what do you do with that? Tell their moms, and it's really. God, man, it's sad. It's hard. My daughter came home and she's sad, and I'm what's the matter, honey? And she's so and so said, that she wasn't going to play with me, and she told this girl and that girl not to play with me. So now none of them are playing with me, and I'm do I have to go I guess they're too young to go beat up. What am I supposed to do? I can't do anything. You want to go in there and tornado the whole school, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Tell the kids but you can't do anything. So it's a very kind of a fucked up.
Yeah, that's childhood. I don't know.
It's hard though, man. When it's your kid.
Oh my God, it's brutal. It's brutal, and especially when they're getting left out of events, or they're not getting invited to birthday parties, and you're just why? Or I go drop my kid off, and he's not as as developed yet as far as his strength to shoot a basketball high enough. So he avoids it, and I'm working on it with him, but it's just like, it's heartbreaking, because like I used to just go right in and play, and that was my strength, and like that's not his strength. And so, to watch him like,
dude, the
figure
worst
out how to go to the library. He's like going to the library, hanging out with kids, and then he's going over here, and he's like, he's not hanging out with the cool jock kids.
You just wait till your kid like tells you what they like. They start to realize, like, your kid will come up to him and be like, "Yeah, I don't think I want to play that because I'm not strong enough," or something like that. And you'll be like, "Oh my god,
my
kid knows."
He knows he sucks. He knows he sucks.
You know what I
Oh
mean?
god.
But at some point, you're gonna realize that you as a kid, you grow up and you realize, oh shit, like, I'm not as tall as this kid, or I'm not as, you're going to realize this. You got to deal with it.
It's like reality.
It's life, kid. Yeah. It's life.
That has to make you guys.
I love watching them work at it.
But exactly.
You know what I mean? Oh, God, it pumps me up.
Seeing all those little things in the way it affects your kids, it has to make you guys more mindful about what you say and what comes out of your mouth and the way you leave impact on people
100%.
right now. Like I mean, I don't even have kids, and I feel like that's something that I'm always working on. I remember.
Well, and I'll be honest, like the anger factor, right?
Yep.
Like you just cannot let yourself lose your cool.
Yep.
Yeah.
You can't do it. Like that's not how. It's not gonna promote anything going forward that's successful.
Well, and then you hear stories like when we interviewed Lane, and he talks about the bullying that he went through as a kid.
Oh, and you can see
it
how
obviously shaped him.
Well, yeah, you can see it's affect him as a grown man.
It shaped him, and what we need to, what people don't realize, not to make everybody, like, if you're a parent right now, I'm just going to make you feel a lot worse, but when you're a child, you're kind of creating these hard wires in your brain, and they're shaped by your experience as a child. And so this is why it's so hard to get over shit that happened to you as a kid. Like, you could be an adult, you could be in a totally secure relationship, you could have plenty of money, you could have a nice home and a nice job, but you're still affected by the fact that you grew up unstable, or poor, whatever, because your brain was shaped by those experiences. And so knowing that makes it even more like stressful. So I guess the best thing you could do is you can't protect them, right? You can't wrap them up in bubble wrap and have them have this perfect life.
Wish you
and
could.
would you really want them to anyway, right?
No.
You want to just help them learn how to deal with and process, these types of things, and how to handle it
you
themselves.
work through it with them. you know?
And how to handle themselves. And so, God, man, it's
It's not easy, man.
dude. If you ever want to relive the most difficult moments of your childhood, all you got to do is have kids.
Yeah.
But
then you get to relive the awesome stuff, like going to Disneyland with your daughter. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that kind of stuff. It's like it brings all new meaning to the experience. you know? So
holidays change.
That's really cool. You know, so it's like we always highlight. I think there's a lot to be said. That's like it's sort of it takes on its own little magic where you get back into childlike, things, and you get to experience it again.
The best thing with my son, right? He's 11 now, so he's getting to the age now where you want to kind of be cool. Like, you're getting a little bit, you understand a little bit what it means to kind of be cool, and you're not a little kid, right? He's going to start getting into teenage years, and I'm a very affectionate person. I grew up in a very affectionate family, and so I'll drop him off at school. And he'll see him. He'll take off. Like, he's just walk away. Like, he's gonna go to his
Yeah, he
class.
doesn't want to hug and
I'm
kiss his dad goodbye.
No. So I'll grab him.
Oh, you dick!
Hell yeah!
You're a dick.
Oh yeah! I'll grab him by his backpack. I'll grab him by the back of his backpack, and I'll be like, I'm gonna give you a kiss on the face, and you can tell he's kind of embarrassed. And I'll tell him, say, you never be embarrassed by your father kissing you on the face. I said, one day you'll remember this. And it's true, you'll think about this one day.
Yep.
And so I'll give him a kiss. But anyway, I did this the other day. I dropped him off, and he was kind of like trying to pull away from me. So I did it like 15 times in a row. Right? So he walks away. So he walks away, and I thought about it. I'm like, oh man, I wonder if I should have not done that. Like, what if he's gonna get embarrassed?
This is embarrassing him. Yeah.
So then I pick him up from school afterwards, and I was still kind of thinking about it, but I wasn't gonna bring it up, because what am I gonna say? So we're walking back to the car, and then one of his buddies is in front of us with his dad, and one of his buddies, you can hear him because he's right in front of us, and he goes, "Dad," he goes, "look back," he goes, "Domenico's dad is so strong. Like, look at him." And you can see the dad look back and the boy look back, and then my son like walks over to me and like holds my hand. You know what I'm saying?
All proud.
Yeah, I'm like, that guy's dad feels inadequate.
Probably doesn't even kiss him.
Yeah. Exactly.
Oh my god,
Daddy, why don't you have muscles like that guy?
Oh shit. Oh god, that's
Boom, working out.
Daddy Bird, come save us.
The Eagle has landed.
Today's quad
is being brought to you by Chimera Coffee. It's the only coffee that is infused with all natural nootropics for a cleaner, calmer, and more focused buzz without the crash. Click the Chimera link at mindpumpmedia.com and input the discount code MINDPUMP at checkout for 10% off.
It's the motherfucking quad.
Eagle has landed.
All right, first up is Sarah Bixo. Does fluctuating keto, non-keto produce any negative physiological effects that you've read or seen? And there's a second part to this question. Can you speak to wanting to be a positive health influence when there is so much bullshit out there?
Okay, so that's like two parts there.
Yeah.
So here's the thing with keto. We've talked about keto quite a few times now. One thing you have to understand is humans tend to thrive on relative variety when it comes to food. So, and there's lots of evidence to back this up. You're more likely to develop a food intolerance if you eat it over and over and over and over again. In fact, that's one of the things that will probably cause an intolerance to something is that you just constantly eat it all the time. For example, if you go to like a place like Japan, they have a very high instance of rice allergy and intolerance. And rice is one of those things that people aren't usually allergic to or have an intolerance for. In fact, if you're one of those people that tends to react strongly to food in America, rice is one of the things that they might recommend. But that's, obviously in Japan they eat a lot of it. So variety is very, very important to your nutrition. Getting into ketosis has got some neuroprotective benefits, and it's got some documented benefits for autoimmune diseases, cognitive benefits. There's some studies showing that running off of ketones benefits people with, things like dementia and Alzheimer's. Some people just feel a lot better eating ketogenic. That being said, I don't think
there's more physiological things that I've seen, and that probably most common I get when I switch someone to that. I get people telling me their satiety, like they don't have cravings. So they all of a sudden they're surprised that, man, Adam, I couldn't have like a bag of chips on my counter and not demolish it, or I couldn't, have a bag of candy somewhere in my house and not demolish it. And they're really floored. Or they couldn't go 4 or 5 hours without eating or craving or wanting something. And so satiety, so those are things that are probably the most common. There's
definitely some benefits from it, but I think if you stay on keto too long, now there are studies, relatively long-term studies. I think they're like 3, 4, 5-year studies on people who were keto for a long period of time. And these were medical ketogenic diets. So these are studies on children who used it to treat their epileptic seizures, and so they'd stay on ketogenic diet for like 5 years, and they found no negative, no major negative anything. It's perfectly healthy. Everything was fine. However, anecdotally speaking, I can tell you if you're strict keto all the time,
you're probably not getting all the optimal nutrients for your body.
You might not, because a lot of things are cutting out, and you may start to notice some negatives. Like you may start to notice some reductions in performance. It could affect your endocrine system, your thyroid. It's not really a good thing if you're hypothyroid. You got to be careful. You got to look at it might affect women negatively because women's bodies tend to be very sensitive to any signs of starvation. So keto, although you are getting adequate calories, can simulate some of the starvation responses in the body because you're switching over to a system in the body that was designed to run off of no food. So there's some of those things you got to watch out for. And personally speaking, I'm going to speak for myself now. I eat a usually ketogenic diet because it just works great for me. It works great with my autoimmune issues. It works great with my gut. I feel great mentally from it. Reduced inflammation. I have lots of food intolerances with grains. However, if I stay keto strict for too long consistently, I do notice that I lose too much weight. It's harder. My performance in terms of strength will start to decline in the gym, and I'll start to look and feel a little gaunt. And so what I do now is I will throw in some carbohydrates here and there. So I don't know.
So 5 years was the longest study that you found
that I'm aware of.
Because that's nothing. To really base off of. Like, I mean, it feels like
No, it's a great point. If you're somebody, because here's the thing too, you could
I
easily
think
be
maybe
missing
10 years would be the late, but I know there's no like lifelong. I mean,
There's also things that are very tough, like getting fiber and digestive enzymes and things like that, you know, people don't really account and think about that, and the buildup of that over weeks and months and years of missing those targets consistently, and you start to alter your body, and you see
well,
and
it's
feel
like
those
you
changes.
said, with the patterns, like if you're constantly doing the same thing, it usually takes it's got to take longer than 5 years to really establish like any sort of detrimental effects, even if you're like really carb loaded, you know, to really notice like specifically now this is contributing to this, and you know, my body's reacting differently now, whereas I need to kind of change and rotate. We're usually on the side of trying to be ahead of that, right? Be preventative as far as like rotating things and making sure that, you know, we're exposing the body to other nutrients, and, you know, we're not establishing this pattern where we're going to hit that wall where now all of a sudden now it's going to have the decline effect.
That's right. And I mean, you know, we talk about evolution a lot. Humans evolved eating whatever they could. And so they followed the seasons. They did not, for most of human civilization, we didn't live in the same place all the time. We moved. We constantly moved to where the food was. So that could mean we're near a place where we could get fish. It could be hunting, you know, different kinds of meats. It could be berries. It could be roots. It could be, you know, certain types of starches. It could be vegetables. You know, they just did this huge study on Neanderthal remains, and the ones that they found showed that these Neanderthals, first of all, very fascinating, kind of off subject, but they discovered that the Neanderthals probably had a very good understanding of plant medicine. We're using natural antibiotics and natural painkillers. So trip off that, because we always considered thinking Neanderthals as being these stupid cavemen. They were probably much more intelligent than we think, if not at par with modern
at
humans.
least, I mean, let's survival, right? I mean, that's built in all of us. It's one thing that we can say. I mean, that you come out that way, no matter how high your IQ is.
Yeah.
You have this desire to survive. You got to think back then there was probably a lot of people dying off the common cold and things like that. So you were probably searching for, scouring the earth for whatever you could try.
And what they found,
trial by air. You know, Jane died, but let's try this on Steve.
Yeah, let's stay away from this plant.
And what they found though with these Neanderthals, this is just new. I just read this 2 days ago, that the Neanderthals that the fossils that they found or whatever were vegetarian. They didn't have any signs of eating any meat whatsoever. And I know...
Is that from the dental records?
Yeah. There's a couple other tests they did, but I know I've been doing this long enough. I've had clients and I've monitored them and worked with them, and we've tried different things. They just feel and operate much better on all levels eating a vegan diet or vegetarian diet. And then there's other people I've worked with that eat, you know, more of a paleo or keto type diet. And the individual variances with food can be pretty dramatic, but I'll tell you this much: whatever you find that works great for you, that's awesome. But variation is going to be good too sometimes. Like for me, like I said, for the most part, I eat keto-ish, but not always.
Well, do you guys have everybody that I've taught keto, like, so I've had many clients that I've had them go through a keto diet because I want them to feel it, and I want them to connect certain dots of when we start to eliminate certain foods.
It's a great awareness tool, isn't it?
So yeah, but no one I've kept on it. I don't have any clients. I don't have anybody that I actually have taught keto and they're like, oh, I'm forever never not being keto. What it was when we went through it, I show them, you know, and now they start to realize, whoa, these carbs were making me feel this way.
It's eye-opening.
It is, and they didn't realize that, which is also what kind of we had somebody recently.
Dude, intermittent fasting was the same.
Yeah,
you know, it had the same experience where it was just eye-opening in that, like, the rituals of eating. You know, you interrupt that process, and it doesn't trip you up. It doesn't slow, like, it doesn't mess up your gains. You know, it actually, you start to feel like improvements energy wise, and it's counter to what you would think. But you really have to go through the whole process and experience it. And now you look at it as like, oh, this is another tool that I can kind of pull from, you know, going forward. This was valid.
This is why I get really annoyed too when we get people that I know that, like, they drop into like 1 or 2 episodes and they hear us talking about the benefits of keto or high fat diets, or maybe it's an episode where we're talking about, you know, carbs and how all the studies that are coming out now and how they affect the body, the brain, and you know, and they think we're demonizing carbohydrates and making them like, oh no, it's not that at all. I'll tell you right now, there's benefits to all these things, but it's most people don't know what it's like to eat a diet that's really high in fat, and extremely low or no carb. I mean, that's just
not in modern times.
No, it's not. It's just not the average. So when we do these podcasts, we're speaking to the majority and we're trying to help the majority out and share with you, like, listen, what we've gone through personally, what we've taken thousands of clients through and their responses. And like Sal's saying, somebody might respond incredible by eating vegan. I still would tell that same person who's eating that way that to make them to watch out for the pitfalls of falling into that dogma also of, just because you feel amazing from it, that now you're never going to eat meat again. And like,
did you go in like without skipping over the step of just eating a ton of vegetables first?
Mm-hmm. That's a great point.
Like, why? I don't know. We get pulled into camps and tribes because of what's at the basis and the root of what is the benefit of it. And what's the benefit of veganism, like, for the most part? It's eating more vegetables.
Yeah, and you got to look at, here's another thing you want to consider with carbohydrates. A lot of times when people dramatically reduce their carbohydrates and they feel amazing, it might be because they reduced the carbohydrates, or it might be that a lot of the junk that they ate was carbohydrate form.
Right.
And you got to consider that carbohydrates tend to be there's many more products that are highly processed and put in boxes that are carbohydrate based than fat and protein based. There's just a lot more. Like, if I tell someone go eat more proteins and fats, they tend to go eat more meats and things that are kind of closer to natural form. If I tell someone go eat more carbohydrates, you see people eating boxed cereals and breads and pastas and things that tend to be more processed, especially if all they're doing is counting macronutrients and not looking at the quality of their food. So
think about that for a second too. When the average American is on a high carb diet, that's crazy to think that a majority of those foods are more likely to be processed.
Yeah. It's not like they're eating these sprouted, whole grain type things, or rice, maybe nice brown rice or white rice or quinoa or just potato. That's usually not the case. It's usually lots of breads, lots of pastas, lots of crackers, lots of, these highly processed
cereals and chips and candy and ice creams and bars. And I mean, that's what's really going down.
Right. So which one's the one that made you feel better? Is it that you reduced your carbohydrates, or is it that you just eliminated the shit? Because what if we kept your diet the same macro-wise and just took out the shit and replaced it with some of these other nutrient-dense kind of whole foods, and then see how you feel? Same thing with increasing the fat in your diet and increasing the protein, or doing all those things. You want to look at all the different kinds of factors that could be contributing to how good or bad you're feeling. Sometimes people they feel great, but it's just because they're eating less calories. You know what I'm saying? You got to look at all these factors because they all contribute to how you're going to feel.
Oversaturated and bloated and sluggish.
Exactly. Yeah. What was the second part to the question?
Yeah, something about the industry assholes. What?
No, wanting to be a positive health influence when there's so much bullshit out there.
There was assholes.
Well, if you want to be a positive influence, the best thing you can do, number one, is be very supportive of people's process. One of the biggest mistakes I made when I got into fitness was that I assumed that everybody would be as passionate and as dedicated to fitness as I was. So I'd get a client who'd come in and I'd be like, here's what you need to do it. And then they wouldn't. And then I'd get mad and be like, well, you just obviously don't want to lose weight, or obviously you don't want to get in shape because I'm telling you what to do and you're not doing it. And all you have to do is do exactly what I tell you. I started to learn later on, I started to really appreciate how hard it was for people, how much they hated it. And I really took into account the psychology that goes behind exercise and eating right, and the psychology and the connections that go to food, and taking time aside for myself, and why I hate working out, and maybe my past experiences. So number one, if you want to be a positive influence, is be compassionate and empathetic, and be supportive in that way. When you're help people not judge themselves
in a non-cheesy way.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you say that, and then I feel like sometimes too you get these.
Well, no, you don't want to be condescending.
Well, no, I don't mean condescending. I don't mean condescending.
It's okay.
I mean like somebody hears that, and then what they do is they post motivational quotes up every single day, or it's like this fake inspiration. It's not like here.
Well, it's nothing tangible. It's usually just like ideas of like how to be inspired, and let's create something for you to think about and set goals and try to better yourself.
Well, I'll give you an example. I had a client who right now we're working together, and I'm having him go through keto portion because we're trying to, again, figure out how his body responds and how he feels so we can, eventually tailor it more to his body. And he was doing really well, like 5 days in. And I get his, because he sends me messages and shows me what he ate. And he's like, oh, man, he goes, I fucked up. He goes, I got this award at work because I did a really good performance and my coworkers took me out. And it's so hard to turn down and say no to them when they're taking me out. So we went out and I had 2 drinks and I had a piece of cake. And I'm such an idiot. I'm so sorry. I'm such an asshole. This is why I never. He was really beating himself up.
Yeah.
And my response to him was like, hey, congratulations on your award. Like, you deserved it. Good job. Good for you.
Yeah.
And he's like, what? And I said, listen, stop judging yourself. I said, you don't win an award like this or whatever every single day. It's okay. There's more to food than it being good for you in terms of what's in the food. Sometimes it's just about celebrating, and the food nourishes you differently. I said, don't judge yourself. Don't hate yourself. It's okay. Now today, you didn't win the award or whatever. We get back on track, and it's not a big deal.
Well, I like to connect for people like that also, that what's okay about that is something else was actually more important than your physical goal. It's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay that, receiving an award and celebrating it with your peers actually took a priority over your physique for a day. Just be mindful that however much damage you did that night could potentially just have set us back maybe a week or two. Mm-hmm. That's not a big deal either, but just being aware of that when you do make those decisions, that means we do have a little bit more work that we have to do. It may take a little bit longer, which is totally okay, especially when you're doing something that was more of a priority. And I think just making them aware of that, then you allow them to start to decide what sacrifices they should make and shouldn't make. Mm-hmm. We could do this dance all day long where you wanted to lose 5 pounds and it took a year for us to do that because you had so many things that were more important than your aesthetics. That's okay.
Yeah.
If you're not that driven to lose the 5 pounds or get to that point and all the other things in your life are so much more rewarding to you, I'm okay with that. Even as a trainer, it's not my job to tell you what your goal is. My job, though, is to help you be aware of why those 5 pounds are probably really hard for you to get there. And that's because you have a lot of other things that you're making more of a priority than that.
That's the biggest piece in the beginning. It's the awareness, and it's you being able to highlight all these different factors that are either going to contribute towards your goal or your fitness or becoming more healthy, and what's going to detract you from that. And then having a real deep understanding of that is a process. So, just not damning the person and not overly, congratulating certain things. It's look, this isn't oh, you did it, you're done. This is a thing. This is a constant conversation that, I feel like just we have to keep talking about it because it's part of daily life, and it's something that you can improve, and then you can influence other people just by your attitude and the way that you interact with people. And people are more likely to respond based off of being influenced by somebody who's actively doing what they say.
Yeah, humanize yourself, right? I mean, I think that's, Sal was talking about the positive and this and that, and I was saying don't be cheesy, and what I meant more by that was humanize yourself, share when you do something that's a positive thing that you post on social media or a thing that you do. I mean, I love to try and direct it through things that it was a growth process for me, or one that I'm currently going through, and sharing that. I think doing that with people, because sometimes when you're a fitness leader, clients tend to think you're superhuman. They think that, to look like you must never you must never have any fun. You must never drink. You must never eat any bad food. You must live in the gym. And they see you as this goal that sure they kind of want, but then they really don't. So, humanizing yourself and helping people see that, it's not about this crazy hard discipline or sacrifice. It's more about understanding you and your body and what works for you, and having true balance and understanding awareness and your goals.
Brad Mashke 54. How can I wean myself off caffeine or lower my intake drastically? I feel like I'm addicted to pre-workout.
Oh, wow.
You probably are.
Yeah, you probably
from
are.
the pre-workout teat.
Caffeine is a chemical that you will exhibit classic addictive. It actually has classic addictive properties. So they go, physiological ones at least. You build up a tolerance. When you stop giving yourself caffeine, you have classic withdrawal symptoms, and then your body comes back to normal, and then the cycle tends to repeat. Here's the thing. One way is to go cold turkey, which means that you'll get through the withdrawal period faster. So if you go cold turkey, expect
5 to 7 days. I think that's what they say.
Depends, man, because
Well, it depends exactly on how bad you were. If you're up to like 1,000 milligrams a day, it could
well,
take a
not
little
just
bit longer.
that. A lot of these pre-workouts have more than caffeine. A lot of them will have all kinds of other stimulants and stuff, and sometimes it could take a little longer.
Yeah.
So
Good point.
Just understand that when you stop taking it cold turkey, that the next week or so of workouts will suck.
I don't ever recommend that. Do you?
Yeah. I used to do this.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I would just go
don't
straight, And here's how I would. This is, by the way, this is how I know when I need to, eliminate or reduce caffeine. Is I get less and less of the benefits of it, and I start to notice more and more of the side effects. So, benefits of caffeine that I notice are more focus, more energy, uplift in my mood. The negatives that I'll start to get with caffeine are shaky, jittery, anxiety, and irritability. So when I notice that the good stuff starts to drop, and then I start to drink more of it, but then what ends up happening is I get more of the negatives, especially the irritability. I'll notice I'll get irritable. That's when I start to cut it out. So you can go cold turkey, or what I do is I just reduce my intake over the course of a week. So if I'm having, 10 ounces of coffee every single morning, then I'll go 10 ounces before my hardest workouts and 5 ounces before my easier workouts, and then I'll go 5 ounces before every workout, and then I'll go 5 ounces before my hardest workouts and none before my easiest workouts, and then I'll go none for a couple weeks, and then I'll introduce it. And by the way, when you reintroduce it, don't go back to your old dose, because it's going to be really fucking strong.
Yeah.
Reintroduce it at a lower dose, and you'll feel great. But I do this all the time. I cycle through this all the time.
I'll fluctuate all the time, especially with coffee, and just like you, but I'll do more I'll definitely bring the levels down that I'm drinking. Instead of 3-4 cups a day. And
because you drink a lot of coffee.
I drink a lot, and I love it. You know what I mean? And I don't really necessarily feel a lot of the negative benefit, the detriments of it but I do tend to flirt with that, and then I know I'm too high. I'm getting a headache, or it's just not working for me, and so I'll back off. But I don't necessarily go cold turkey. What I'll do is I'll ramp it down, and then I'll switch, the type of coffee that I'm drinking, and then just kind of start over and with a different blend.
Some people get really nasty side effects, withdrawal. Excuse me, I don't get them. If I cut caffeine out, all I get is tired. I'm just sluggish or whatever. Some people get migraines.
I don't get migraines, but I get it's pretty gnarly if I go from what I'm taking to absolutely nothing. I treat my caffeine addiction the same way I treat my marijuana addiction, same way. So, and very similar to what Sal said, is I'm measuring the effectiveness of both of them, and then the side effects. And when they start to level out, even I try and get it before it's adverse, before the headaches or the lack of sleep or lower performance, or if I notice myself having to double my dose, and that's kind of where I go. So imagine I used to be 1 cup of coffee in the morning was all I needed and wanted, and that's fine. I could go off of that. And then you see yourself eventually ramp up, and then all of a sudden you're justifying yourself having 14 cups of coffee. And really, it's just not necessary to do that to get the same. It is for you to get the same effects because you've allowed that tolerance to build up. And I think it's silly to do that, because all you have to do is really discipline yourself to clean it out of your system for a couple weeks, and you'll get the effects of it being the first time again. And that's both for cannabis and for.
That's one of my favorite things. One of my favorite things is to go off and then to reintroduce it.
Yeah.
And it's it's great again.
Yeah.
The same thing, like you said, for cannabis.
Oh, my old friend.
Yeah.
Same exact thing. What you need to know that's happening is when you're getting this, when you're ingesting whatever you're ingesting, whether it be caffeine or cannabis or whatever substance you're taking in, the way your brain develops a tolerance for it is whatever chemicals or neurotransmitters it promotes. So let's say you drink caffeine and you get a bunch of dopamine. Okay, there's other things that happen, but let's just talk about dopamine. You get a dopamine release. Your brain will release less and less dopamine with the same dose. So that's number one. Number two, the receptors that this dopamine will attach to, or the receptors that the caffeine or whatever drugs start to attach to, they start to shut off. Your body will actually start to reduce its receptor availability. So now you have less receptors, less chemical output, And that's why when you go off, you get a withdrawal because now your baseline is so low. This is why withdrawal on some drugs is so bad that you have to go to a hospital for it. For example, if you're addicted to opiates, withdrawal from opiates is supposed to be one of the worst experiences you could go through. It's like the worst flu you've ever had in your entire life, and it's just like that. And because you have no more opiate receptors, you're not developing your own opiate, endogenous opiates, and you're just in constant pain and feeling like shit until they start to come back up. So that's just so you understand what's happening to your body.
Yeah, no, I think for that reason it's extremely important. And then let's be even simpler, like financially, just makes sense.
Yeah.
You continue ramping up like that. Next thing you know, you look at you're like spending $50 a day on fucking caffeine to keep you going, and it's like that's just ridiculous when you could cut that in 500%. And still get that same effect just by simply disciplining yourself to wing off. And I find it that rewarding also is teaching yourself control like that. Like, how I've been lucky because I've had people in my family, I've been circled around people, or I've had people in my circle that are been addicted to different drugs and different things, and I've seen what it's done to their life and take it over. And so I really try not to allow anything to be that way. Anything that I do that I find myself ramping up the dosage to get the same effect. And I think caffeine and cannabis are two things that are really common with that. And I'll tell you, be honest and share my numbers. So for me, and this, I think everybody should, it's to each their own, right? But I've shared before that at nighttime is when I use cannabis, and I literally, it only takes 3 puffs off of a joint, and I like have what I want to feel. I want that calming relaxation feeling, and that's all it takes. And I will allow myself to consistently have that every night until I notice myself starting to get to the point where I'll get through like a half a joint. I've never in my life sat down and smoked an entire joint, ever. I've never allowed myself to continue smoking so much that I feel like I need to sit down and smoke a whole joint just to feel the same effect that I feel from like 1 or 2 puffs, right? And the same thing goes for caffeine. I did allow myself to get to a point where I was doing like 4 speed stacks a day. And that was like 200 something milligrams.
That was me.
I remember you in those days.
And
that wasn't just caffeine. That was
and I was a young dumb kid, and I didn't know any better and stuff. And and back then I would use studies. Look, there's tons of studies that show the benefits of caffeine. Caffeine's good, and right. So, but being addicted and dependent on anything that's just silly. I shouldn't be that way, and I'm not getting the benefits of all the benefits of it, and I'm probably getting some adverse effects, especially if I'm taking it through this synthetic fucking fake drink with 1,000 other things in it that we don't even know how to read.
And make sure, like, as you're going through this process, you start like reintroducing more water. Like that's one thing I know that really helps when I'm moderating my caffeine intake is to really just focus more on, hydration, because a lot of times when I do get tired, it's because I'm dehydrated.
Yeah, when I cut coffee, I actually cut it and then I replace with green tea. So I still get a little.
I do the same exact thing.
I get a little bit of caffeine still, but I don't. It's not. And I think that's what keeps me from getting the headaches and like the crazy withdrawals from going from like 400 milligrams to nothing, just by having because I think green tea is about 10 to 15 milligrams, in a glass of hot or cold green tea. So I normally allow myself to have that and replace a coffee, and then eventually I'll try and go none whatsoever, and then it's pretty easy from there, to be honest.
Rusty Westside. I find back squats to mess with my hips and cause lower back pain even more than heavy deadlifts. But Zercher squats don't cause pain at all. Can I use Zercher to replace the back squats?
I picked this question because
before you go into this, I want to remind the listeners that we've had so many people sign up for the 30 days of coaching.
Oh yeah.
It's free. 30 days of coaching at mindpumpmedia.com, where we send you information every day on a different topic and links to episodes where we talk about those topics in detail. I wanted to make sure I said that.
No, I'm glad
so many people signed up.
No, I'm glad you did, and I wanted to point out too. Like this is why we created this. We got so many people that were reaching out, going like, man, I'm trying to turn somebody on to Mind Pump, and I don't know where to start. I don't know what to give them. I don't know what episode should they listen to. Like, that's how we organize this.
Yeah. So, not the Vajazzle episode.
Yeah,
let's go 30 days of coaching.
Unfortunately, it's not in the Vajazzle episode. Is not in the 30 days of coaching.
Well, depending on your friend, but yeah.
But it is organized in a perfect way to introduce somebody to Mind Pump, because it purely is just all the good information as far as health, wellness, and all the topics, and you can choose to go dive deep deeper into it and listen to the actual podcast episodes that are pertaining to the topic of the day. And we try to, and we also, it's a working document for us. So we plan to evolve it. We already have ideas for the 2.0 version on what we're going to add to it. And we're going to continue to get feedback from people. And this is going to be an awesome place for people to start off if they've never heard Mind Pump.
So to address this question specifically, I mean, this just screams to me like Prime. Like,
Yeah.
you know, it's like let's all take a couple steps back. Like your body's giving you signals, right? Right. You're feeling pains in your lower back. You're feeling pains doing like this is a foundational exercise.
It's a fundamental movement.
Fundamental movement, primal movement that you should be able to do without pain. That's a problem.
And by the way, the reason why you can do a Zercher squat without pain and deadlifts without pain, a Zercher squat's more like a deadlift than a squat. So that's why you can do deadlifts great, and you can also do Zercher squats great. Is a Zercher a replacement for a squat? No. It's different.
It's a great accessory to the back squat.
It's not a bad exercise.
Yeah.
It's just not a replacement.
Yeah.
You have some muscle imbalances. You have some recruitment pattern issues. If you address them and you take the time to address them and you don't worry about how much weight you're squatting, you're going with real light weight and focusing on range of motion and priming your body before you lift properly, in a relatively short period of time, within a month, you'll be able to squat and feel good while you're squatting. And once you can get into the squat and you've got good mobility in it, good control in it, good recruitment patterns in it, you will reap the benefits of one of the most effective exercises known to man.
Right.
So that's why you want to do this.
Let's not just breeze over and ignore the backloaded squat. Like this is something that like anybody who like looks at I hear this about the deadlift too, right? And I hear this about like bench pressing or overhead pressing or, well, I should just probably avoid it. Should you really? Are you really going to want to go from here on out not having that ability anymore because you haven't addressed it on a deeper level and regressed your programming to get ahead of this before it becomes an injury?
Think of it this way: if I have a huge splinter in my foot and it just kills me when I walk, the answer is not to stop walking. You know what I mean? Yeah. Hey, doctor, my foot hurts. Well, just stop walking. That's not the answer. Got to address the issue.
The reason why I picked this question was because this is probably one of the hardest things as a trainer to do right here. I wanted to challenge us, and of course the boys are going to go this direction, but I want to address how common it is that people don't listen to this advice and how important it is that you listen to this advice. And this is what's wrong with the fucking industry, because everything is centered around 30-day, 60-day, fast, quick fix, get me to my goal. How quick can you give me, if I get your program, will I look like this by this time? If I take this supplement, will I look like this by this time? Can I do this instead of that because I don't like this? And it's like Justin said, your body is telling you something right now. And I have no idea how old this person is, but I'll tell you right now, being somebody who used to do this, and this is why I speak so passionately about it, not because I'm like pointing a finger right now, because let me tell you, I avoided squats for many years because my low back would be on fire after like one set. And it frustrated me as a trainer because I couldn't put my finger on it. I just figured I was not built to squat very well and I'm not good at it, and it just drove me crazy, and I just ignored it because I could totally do a Zercher squat, I could do a lunge, I could do a leg press, a leg extension, and none of those bothered my back. So that is so important that you address this now, because this will, not maybe or probably, it's going to be a major issue for you down the road. Right now, it's already an issue, and it's already talking to you and telling you what you need to fix this. Mm-hmm. And this is also why we created MAPS Prime. We were most excited about this program because this is what a majority of people need to be going through, especially if they're noticing things like this. If you're noticing that, and I can tell you right now, not even seeing who this person is, how old they are, by what they're explaining, and that I know that a Zercher doesn't bother them, but a backloaded squat probably does, you probably have an excessive arch in your low back when you squat down. And that's probably caused because of your hips, right? So you probably have an anterior pelvic tilt, just
they're
like
probably contracting the shit out of their hip flexors on the way down.
Yeah,
Yep.
very hip flexor dominant.
So you're not firing properly right now, and just ignoring it and doing other things that don't bother it is going to make that worse in the long run. So getting something like Prime, and it's, you know what, if you can't afford to get Prime right now, then at least start over on the YouTube channel. We just did a back series. I talked
Good
about,
call. Yeah.
I just talked about having an excessive arch in my low back. I think it was a 5 or 6 part video series that we did. There's
And the hip flexor deactivator.
That's a good one.
Yeah, that Sal mentions.
You know what too. So if you're on our forum, all you got to do is videotape the yourself squatting front, side, and back, and tag us, and then we'll address, because it's hard for us to. I mean, we're making assumptions on our experience and what we see on a majority of people with what you're
from
describing.
common issues.
Yeah, but to be honest with you, the only way we'd really know what your issue is.
I could be totally wrong.
Yeah.
I could be totally wrong.
We
on
would
this,
need to see.
But I feel pretty confident.
Yeah, we'd need to see. We need to see if we could see you squat. We would be able to address, let you know, kind of.
Well, I'm glad you brought up the forum too, because I mean, it's after this month, the forum price is going up. We talk a lot about how, out of everything that we've created, everything we've done with Mind Pump, it's by far the most awesome thing, and we think that we've created as far as the community that's inside of there. It's by far, out of anybody that's purchased anything from us, it's the most valuable thing that we have. This month, if you enroll in the RGB bundle or the super bundle, you get it for free. And then this is the type of stuff you use it for, is you get on that forum, you take a video of yourself squatting.
Yeah, what's wrong with my squat?
And you
Why do
say,
hips
my
hurt?
low back hurts, this is going on, this and that. And probably before even one of us three can get on there and answer it, you'll have a chiropractor, a physical therapist, and a doctor probably answer you. And if not, we'll get on there and answer it and help you with it. So that's how powerful that community is. Take advantage of that for sure.
Yep.
Lindsay One Love, have you dealt with clients that are doing good at setting new habits and then self-sabotage, crashing their diet and fitness program?
So the self-sabotage phenomena is it's part of the whole I'm on the wagon, I'm off the wagon situation.
It's part of you,
This is
you
a-
addressing just a goal and not addressing the mental side
Yeah,
of this.
this is it's called a symptom eruption. So what a symptom eruption is if you have someone say, let's say someone has a nervous tick where they are, they have to constantly, scratch their ear, and it's just something psychologically. They always have to scratch their ear. If you force them to, or tell them, don't scratch your ear, don't do that anymore, it'll build up, and then what we'll see is that there'll be what's called a symptom eruption, where they then go and do it much more than they did before. The same thing happens when you have clients who you're working with nutrition and exercise. If somebody comes to you and their diet is bad, and then you say, okay, here's what you're going to eat, here's what you're not going to eat, and they get real strict on it, it was a drastic change. They went from bad to all of a sudden super strict. And when they finally do crack, they get what's called a symptom eruption, where they go and they binge, or they go crazy, or they know they can never have sugar. So then when they go have the sugar, they're like, fuck it, I already had it. Here we go. I'm going to go nuts with it. And it becomes mindless. And then the next day they feel very bad about what they did. They judge themselves, and it becomes this on-off situation, on the wagon, off the wagon type situation. So first step, if you have a client who self-sabotages, number one, don't let them add a layer of shit to it by being angry with themselves and hating themselves for it, because they're just adding a whole layer of difficulty to it.
Yeah, help them be aware.
So let them, be empathetic with them, talk with them about it, and say, look, this happened. Let's talk about why. Let's talk about what led to this happening. How did you feel while it was happening, while you were, eating these foods, or, while you lost contact with me and didn't come into the gym? What was going on? What were you, how were you feeling? What was happening in your life, or what was going on during that situation? It can be a difficult conversation, but the person will start to examine what exactly is going on, because now you can identify. You can start to identify what caused it,
Right.
what the mindset was during it, and then the next time they're more aware of it happening when it potentially happens again.
Well, this is why I connected so well with Dr. Andrew Hill when we had him here. Because when I was listening to him talk about this new way of handling addiction and these clinics that he has created, and all the progress that he was making, it was like this aha moment for me, because I was like, oh my God, this is how I talk to my clients. It's so funny. And we talk about battling addiction with drugs and stuff. And that's what Dr. Andrew Hill came on here, and his method is so uniquely different than any other clinic out there. Normally you are addicted to something, they lock you in a room, they cut it off, and they say you can't have it anymore, and they pull it out of your system, and you're like in confinement for 30 days, and they send you off, and it's like a 50-50. Are you going to go back or not, right? And, they are having so much more success with actually allowing people to go back to the drug or back to the alcohol or back to the cigarettes or whatever, but then having them have some accountability on, let's talk about what led you there. Let's talk about your day leading up to that. Let's talk about what you were thinking about yourself, what you're thinking about the people that you're surrounded by, why you did, instead of just having one little thing, you had 15 things. Let's talk about all these things. And like Sal said, then you start to get to the real root cause why these people are doing these things. And that right there, and I think sometimes when we talk, I feel like some people, especially if you're not familiar with the trainer world or what it's like to even train a client, people probably think we're hokey and kind of hippie-like because we talk about feelings and emotional connection.
It's just, you have to, man. If you don't focus on it, you're not going to be an effective trainer.
Fuck yeah.
You're just not.
That's
like most of your work as a trainer.
Well, let's put it this way. If you're not, you can just play the odds, and you can, let's say you're the best at programming, the best at nutrition, you're just a fucking rad trainer, right? As far as what you can tell people to do. But you have no idea like the mental side of the business. And so you provide just great programs, great nutrition, great help. You still live by those numbers that 20% of the people actually stick through and go through with the whole process and follow it through. And so it's like a roll of the dice on if those people that guy could still be some successful trainers. But I'll tell you right now, you start tapping into their feelings and what drives them and what motivates them, the psychological side of health and fitness, and you open yourself up to the 80% that is mostly failing.
I'll go ahead and say that's the reason why like these artificial intelligence like app programs, like fitness program, this and that you can get on the iTunes store or whatever, will fail. They will fail because they don't have that accounted for, the psychological factor.
You know who they'll look for?
And that's the biggest, that's probably like, what you guys would say, probably at least 90%.
No, it's 80 to 90%. You know where those apps will succeed, and they might succeed
with
because
the hardcore people.
Just
the 10%.
But they're already doing it.
Yeah.
So
that's who that appeals to. It does not appeal to the person who doubts himself and beats himself up and is high stress levels.
It's a symptom eruption. You see this all the time with the strictest, most dedicated dieters in the world, physique and bodybuilder and bikini competitors. What do they all do after their competitions? They go nuts with food. Nuts. And it's not because, it's not because the food tastes so good. It's not because it's, I want that cake or I want that pizza. Because if you look and see what they eat, they don't just have some pizza. They go crazy. They'll eat a whole pizza, a whole box of donuts, a bunch of Pop-Tarts, a bunch of candy. It's a symptom eruption. It's true for all human behavior. You go to the most strict societies when it comes to sex. Go to the strictest, most frigid societies with sex, and you'll see the highest percentage of perversions when it comes to sex.
Do you know the irony?
Kinks and weirdness.
Check out the irony in this. My entire fitness career, even before fitness, never in my life have I ate like this before. Never have I, like, outside looking in or reflecting back, post competition, there has been at least 2 times where I can remember laying in bed with Katrina afterwards and eating food that I had balancing on my belly while I watched TV. Like, because I was
like a pile of food.
Because I already had food sitting. I already had it actually sitting at a table already with her, but I was just going to keep eating, and I wanted to this because I was so deprived for so long.
It's a psychological response.
And I've never done that before, and I'm sure we've all seen that on TV before, or maybe some people can relate and say they actually have done that, where you put a pizza box on your fucking stomach and you're watching TV and just fucking eating. I mean, you're so lazy you don't even want to sit up at a table and eat it. You're going to eat it while you stuff your face while you're fucking watching TV in bed. And I was coming off the fittest I've ever been in my life, and yet doing things like that. And these were some of the connections that I made on holy shit, this fucking side of the fitness industry is even more fucked up. Like, you know, I had no idea.
It led you to that point.
And I pride myself on being somebody who's very self-aware and pays attention to these things and doesn't allow myself to fall into these traps. And instead of that, the community is actually praising it.
Well, they sell it. It's funny. They celebrate.
Well, now they sell like protein cake. I saw that the other day at one of those fitness expos. And like, yeah, since we gave you cookies, we're gonna give you cake too.
Dude,
and like now you can eat it. It's like,
you'll see on Instagram. You'll have competitors will post a picture of the food. This is like 4 weeks before competition.
Yes.
They'll post the pictures of the boxes of shit food or whatever that they can't wait to eat after they're done. They'll buy them already.
Did you?
Like, look at all these boxes of Oreos, cake, and whatever. I can't wait to eat this after my competition. I got it waiting for me.
Tell me that's not a complex.
Please.
Dude, that is not a good relationship to food, man.
No.
Please tell me you guys have seen this.
Let me see.
Tell me you have seen the commercials for this.
No, what is that?
Look at it. This blew my mind when I saw that a company is actually going to make money doing this right here. It's a fucking clear tube. It's a clear tube with a code, a locking code that you lock. They show you to like lock like candy and treats that you're not supposed to have.
What in the fuck? Like that's going to prevent people from having it?
Oh, it's hilarious,
dude.
You see it, Sal?
Yeah, I'm looking at it now. So what is it? It's like a
lock box.
You lost it.
It's like a food lock box. Are you watching the commercial on it right now?
It's called K-Safe.
Yes.
What,
oh my god.
dude?
So explain it, Adam.
Well, you're looking at it right now.
Well, I mean, it's a long commercial, so I can't really.
Are you watching what they're putting in it and everything like that? And how they're
yet.
advertising? Yeah, watch how they're advertising. Watch it. That's what I mean. We'll tell Doug to chop the 15 seconds that it takes you to watch it out of this. It's fine.
Oh,
I wanted you guys to talk about this anyways.
Safe. So it's like a safe that you put your food in. And what do? You lock.
Yeah, you just put the cookies in here,
and you can
cupcakes.
I believe you can set it so like okay, M&Ms, right? I want to be able to. I can only open it at 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. You know, and so you set these locking mechanisms on it.
And they're not gonna like just consume the whole thing. That's in there.
It's just and then on top of that, it's this clear thing where it's sitting on. I mean, talk about just fucking building this whole thing around, you know, this food and just idolizing.
You know what you're doing? You're only
insecurities.
You're strengthening. The poor relationship.
Oh my god! So I'm very fascinated to see if this company actually continues.
I tell you what, if you have a client that does the self sabotage, it's a great opportunity to work through this. I tell you, I hate to say this because it sounds kind of wrong, but when I have clients that do this, I revel in it. I'm like, okay, here we go. Here's an opportunity to work through what just happened, and how we work through this is going to determine how this person is going to succeed, in the near future. And what you don't do is you don't hammer them for it. You don't let them hammer themselves for it. You talk about what happened before, what happened during. How did you feel afterwards? Like you got to. And here's the thing, people need to realize: when you talk about things and you actually process them differently. So although they may be in their mind, they know kind of they felt shitty afterwards. Actually, talking about it makes it a little different. You know, like how did you feel after you ate all that pizza? Like, oh man, I felt kind of groggy. And like, how did you feel the next day? Well, I woke up and my stomach hurt and. How was your stool? Oh, I was really gassy, and just really start making those connections. And what led you to eat that? Well, I was at the party, and there was the food there, and I knew I wasn't supposed to eat any. And then I'd be like, okay, stop right there. What do you mean you're not supposed to have any? Oh, well, I have these goals, and say, well, I understand that, but what do you mean by not supposed to? What happens if you do have a little bit of it? Well, I'm not supposed to have any of it, but if I have a little bit, then I guess I'm off. I say, okay, well, why didn't you just have a little bit? Well, I don't know. That's a good question. We'll talk about that. Well, maybe because you thought you couldn't at all. So the second you broke that rule, now it was
like, fuck it, right?
No holds barred.
Yeah.
Because it's all or nothing. And that's when people do the whole self-sabotage thing. When they don't do the self-sabotage, because people still screw up. They still make mistakes here and there. You'll find that they'll bounce back much faster and they don't go nuts with their quote unquote self-sabotage.
I agree.
Yeah.
If you like Mind Pump, leave us a 5-star rating and review on iTunes. If you like your review and we pick it, you'll get a free Mind Pump t-shirt. Also, stop this podcast. Go to YouTube. Check us out. Mind Pump TV. A brand new video every single day. 365 days a year, you will get a video that teaches you how to exercise better, new exercise techniques, nutrition, motivation, comedy, I don't know, something.
Sex life, everything. We address everything.
Everything. New video every single day. Also, find us on Instagram at Mind Pump Radio.
Yeah.
You can find me at Mind Pump Sal, Justin at Mind Pump Justin, and Adam at Mind Pump Adam.
Thank you for listening to Mind Pump. If your goal is to build and shape your body, dramatically improve your health and energy, and maximize your overall performance, check out our discounted RGB Super Bundle at mindpumpmedia.com. The RGB Super Bundle includes MAPS Anabolic, MAPS Performance, and MAPS Aesthetic. 9 months of phased expert exercise programming designed by Sal, Adam, and Justin to systematically transform the way your body looks, feels, and performs. With detailed workout blueprints and over 200 videos, the RGB Super Bundle is like having Sal, Adam, and Justin as your own personal trainers, but at a fraction of the price. The RGB Super Bundle has a full 30-day money-back guarantee, and you can get it now plus other valuable free resources at mindpumpmedia.com. If you enjoy this show, please share the love by leaving us a 5-star rating and review on iTunes and by introducing Mind Pump to your friends and family. We thank you for your support, and until next time, this is Mind Pump.